This actually got me thinking of another story I saw online. The Department of Natural Resources in Utah was dropping fish. Fish stocking, a lot of times they'll do it with planes. So they have a lot of remote lakes and stuff that don't necessarily have fish in them, or not many fish. So in order to get fish to those remote lakes and ponds and stuff like that, normally they'll do an airplane drop. And there's people concerned about it because they're like, oh, that could hurt the fish. So the Department of Natural Resources kind of debunked that theory.
Little parachutes.
Yeah, so these, yeah, exactly. Cutest things you ever saw. And they're biodegradable and turn into little plankton.
Little table napkins.
Yeah, that's right. So so basically what happens is they can't get to these lakes unless they use dirt bikes or something like that, because there's no roads or anything where they can get trucks back there, and it'd be really hard and rocky on the fish and just in those trucks for that long. So what they do is they have these planes that can fill up with hundreds of gallons of water, and then they add the fish in there, and then they'll fly to these remote lakes. They'll fly as low as they can, open up the chute, and all the water and the fish fall together. And a lot of people are a little bit worried about it, and they're like, doesn't hurt them. The survival rate's really high. And the fish are 1 to 3 inches, so they're smaller, so they have a lot less mass. Now, that got me thinking, obviously, well, not obviously. Actually, some people might not realize this if they forgot their high school education, little lessons that they learned from Mrs. Stahl, shout out. But basically what they would do is the fall rate of the fish would be the same as a human being. So a 200-pound human or a fish, they're going to fall at exactly the same rate. Regardless, it's 9.8 meters a second. So then it obviously that's the free fall rate. So things fall at the same time, unless there's air resistance. So a feather wouldn't fall at the same rate because there'd be air resistance. But two objects that even with different masses will fall at exactly the same rate. So, but they're just so small, so they don't have a lot of mass when they hit the water. And they said that if they dropped them straight up, they might get hurt. Some of them might get hurt, but because they drop them with water, it won't hurt them as bad. And I had trouble figuring that out, though.
Yeah, well, because if you, say you jump out of a plane or you just jump off somewhere high into water, if it's more than, I think, 80 feet up, when you hit that water, it's like hitting
concrete.
a
I've never
cement
understood
wall.
how that's the thing.
It is.
Because of the surface tension. But because they're dropping them with the water, I would think the water, because no fish is directly on the bottom, so as they're dropping them, the water hits the water first. So that kind of disperses a lot of the surface tension and allows them to, they're probably still jarred quite a bit, but.
So you see the Red Bull competitions where you have the people diving off the huge cliffs? Hey?
Flugen something.
I don't know
Was
what
it
you're
your
talking
safe word? What do you want?
No,
That's what I thought it was
the
too.
name of the Red Bull thing. It's the
I don't know.
Flugen. It's like the
Stop
German
saying
word
that.
or something.
Anyone who jumps from a high is diving from a super high from a high whatever.
Sure.
What they'll always have is water being dumped into where you're landing.
Really?
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
That's a thing then.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's to break the surface tension, so you're not just hitting that flat surface. So a lot of times when you see these competitions, either they're dumping water, a constant stream of water in, or it's next to a waterfall, because it's displacing the water,
moving, yeah.
so you can flow through it easier. Because if it's just stagnant and flat like a mirror, it's going to be the same as hitting concrete.
This is what I don't get though. But you're nothing's stopping you. You're still going into the water.
Correct.
It's
But
stopping you fast enough that it's almost the same as if a cement wall was stopping you, as opposed to.
I actually
that's
have
nutty.
I actually have real life experience of this. I jumped off a 93-foot cliff in Jamaica. Yep, 93
was
foot.
it near a waterfall?
No, it
Was
was
it in the
a bay.
ocean?
It was a Rick's Cafe.
Did you do
Jamaica.
Did you do the Vin Diesel thing where you got a shotgun with you, and as you're coming down, you shoot the water, and then that?
Is that a thing too?
It's breaking the surface
It was
tension.
in a movie, so it has to.
But the issue with that is, I guess not, because that's
Well,
if
here's what
you're shooting the other way.
Here's what I
Never
will
mind.
tell you though. When I did it, I was so worried about my gonads and my butthole because they said that you can get an enema basically.
If you don't
Yeah.
clench.
And
God.
I had already gone twice that day, so I didn't need to be cleaned
Cleared
out. But so they're like, make sure you cover your nuts and your butt. And it was funny because our tour guide that we were with, she's like, I do not want you jumping off that. She goes, nobody on this bus better be jumping off that cliff. She goes, if you do it, do the one for you people. It's 40 foot. And I was like, I want to do the big one, Miss Clara. And she's like, Kyle, you're going to look like your American flag. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, you're already white as snow. And she goes, and you're going to be all black and blue, and they'll be red all over. She goes, I do not want you doing it. So I get up there, and the people there, they're like, the locals are jumping off of this same cliff that I'm going off of, and they're getting paid to do it. And I'm up there like an idiot. But then I had hyped it up so much on the bus that I garnered a crowd watching me. So now I
got to do it.
When I got up there, I'm like, I do not want to do. I would rather
90 feet is high.
93 feet. I'm like, I do not want to do this. I
Right.
do not. I changed my mind completely. Get all the way up there, and I had made friends with. There was a couple there that we met, and they the guy was a firefighter, and he was retired, so he was like 55, and he's like, I'll do it with you. I was like, all right, let's do it. He goes, I'll go first. I was like, good. So we get up there, and the people are like, listen, man. They're like, that's not appropriation. I'm just saying what they said.
Yeah.
They go, listen, man. He goes, you see that and that and that right there? I'm like, what? He goes, kind of where the water comes up. I go,
Those little specks.
I got, yeah, I guess. He goes, if you don't clear there, that's rocks. I was like, how hard do you have to? Because I'm having trouble.
All right, I'll buy the insurance.
I'm having trouble lining up the angle of like, because you figure like if you threw like a ball or something off of a tall bridge or something and you did it a certain way, all you'd have to do is push it just a little bit and it would be so far away by the time it landed. So I'm like, do I only have to step off? He goes, you got to get a good jump. But I was nervous because it was like in a big cove type area. So I was like, I'm not going to get to the other side, am I? How bad would that suck? You don't want to
You
get to
make
the
it too far.
Yeah. So he goes, no. He goes, you can't get to the other side. Jump hard. And I was like, all right, well, the firefighter does it. He jumps off, nothing. And he gets down and he's like, I can't even hear him because it's 93 foot down and everyone's cheering and there's music. It's at Rick's Cafe,
Yeah.
bars.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is crazy. It's just it's like a nightclub outside. If I died, people probably cheer. Like it was just crazy. You know what I mean? Like
His name would go up on a wall
I
somewhere.
know. If I was watching me, I'd probably root against me. You know what I mean? It's like so.
Rock, 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 rock.
So I run and jump off, and I remember like halfway down, I'm like, I gotta be hitting the water soon. I'm like, come on! Like it was like,
Your adrenaline's probably through the roof.
yeah, it was a long enough fall. It was the same exact feeling that you get on a roller coaster, except you're not actually safe.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
because a roller coaster you can pull yourself together and be like, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
That kid in the front row is doing it. You're fine.
Yep.
But here it's like there's things to remember. So I'm like going and I'm just watching the rocks across from me just go past me, you know, as I'm falling. So it's like because it's a cliff.
And closer and closer.
No. And I'm just watching them. I'm like, please let this just be over with. Like this is miserable. And then
Half a second.
finally, it felt like an hour though. You
Yeah.
know, I had long enough to be like, why is this not over?
You look down, you're like 20 feet down.
No. So then as I started to get close to the water, I remember looking down and knew I was there, and I grabbed my nuts and my covered my butthole with my hand flat, and I hit the water. I forgot to point my toes, so my feet hit flat. I was already stung by a sea urchin on my foot 2 days prior from chasing this fish. Won the bet though. They bet me I couldn't catch a fish with my bare hands. So there was a bunch of sea anemones. So I would chase these minnows into the sea anemone.
Anemones?
Yeah,
You sound like Nemo right now.
no. And I would push them. With the current into them, and then they grab them. It would shock them, and then I'd pull them out of there, and I'm like, caught it. So I won the bet, but I kicked a sea urchin doing it. So I was all jacked up anyways, and my feet hurt so bad when I hit that water. I got out, and I had trouble walking. I lifted up the bottom of my feet. I had specks of blood all over the bottom of my
Yeah.
feet from like,
Broken capillaries.
yeah.
Wow, that's high.
Yeah.
30 feet's the highest I've ever cliff dove.
And that 30 feet feels like a enormous thing.
It really does.
They say, as far as the surface tension thing goes, that when you're landing like a seaplane with the pontoons on it, it's far easier to land a plane on slightly wavy water versus like glassy water. You would think you would want the flattest landing surface,
like a ground, like a
Right.
runway.
right? But the issue is when it's glassy like that, what you tend to do is you just skip across it. It's not.
Oh, it
it's
doesn't
not
absorb
sucking-
you.
It doesn't absorb you. So you want the waves to break that surface tension so the pontoons will get down into the water. Otherwise, you just skip across it,
Yeah.
and then it takes way longer to land.
You see that water skiing when people go, and if they hit like a wave and that's what makes them drop, they'll hit the wave and just you can't see them anymore. But if they're coming on a turn and they lose hold of the rope and then go
You're gonna
across,
see 'em for a minute.
You watch them go,
Yeah.
and like skip like a rock.
Yeah.
You're thinking of tubing, not skiing.
Either way.
No,
You're going
he's
fast
right.
enough.
Yeah. Or it's the same thing as like you see these professional jet skiers who they'll be doing flips and stuff. They're using
I'm on a boat.
their own wave
Doing
to do the flips and all the tricks and everything. And
Yeah.
if they just did a flip and landed on flat water, it would be like just landing on the ground. They would just smash their face into
Oh.
it.
I guess I do feel like I understand it. Like imagine you're falling and you're gonna hit the water. Would you rather hit the peak of a wave where it's like a big triangle and you're like breaking a smaller section of water and then it's slowly becoming bigger? But when you hit back smack or flat, that's no good.
Yeah.
So that kind of
You
makes
gotta
sense.
avoid that.
It's the same reason why a dive doesn't hurt, but a belly smacker does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Where were you 10 minutes ago with that one? It's perfect.
Another thing that I've heard about, like the surface tension and the way water works and everything, is it like say on the Titanic, the ship was sinking. When the ship is sinking, you
Never
want
forget.
you want to get as far from the boat as possible, as quickly as possible,
Because
because
pull you down.
what ends up happening is that boat will flip and release all that water, and what it's doing is creating a cavity in the water that you'll just fall straight through the bottom of because gravity's still on you. So you'll fall through that bubble, and you'll be, before you know it, 50 feet down,
Instantly.
and then you're in the water.
No kidding.
That's true.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, that's like I believe in the movie Titanic they were saying like get away from the boat, get away, and
Yeah, it sucked to be the person that figured that out and survived and had to go teach everybody else, and that's not possible, dude.
That band kept playing though.
Yeah, they did. God bless them.
While slowly sinking into the water.
Good men.
Womp womp.